All right. Okay, welcome everybody. We're so glad to see your faces and start our next gathering meeting in this week with Becky Sims. Today's topic is called heart-focused planning and how to balance all the things, right? Because we all have all the things that are going on in our lives that we need to figure out how to structure our time with. And I just wanted to take a moment to just recognize Becky, and she's been such a cheerleader in the writer's block. Like you guys know, she's Johnny on the spot, posting the Bible verses every day. She was one of the very first people to express interest in the writer's block for me. And so that was super encouraging. And she is just a ray of light. And so I'm so grateful that she wants to share with us today. And so Becky, I'm going to pass it to you. I think you wanted to start us off with a word of prayer.
I did. First, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be in the community. And I really enjoy it, the community, and appreciate all the teaching and sharing and prayers and encouragement from everybody here. Dear Lord, thank you for this opportunity to share today. Thank you for Kara and the Writer's Block community she has created. Thank you for the many members who have joined in sharing their faith and knowledge with us. Please be present with us today and help us to see how we can grow closer in our relationship with you while including you in every aspect of our planning. Help us to do everything in love. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Well, Becky, tell us a little bit about you and your writing journey so far.
Okay. Well, I'll start out with I've been living in Central Ohio my whole life. I've been married to my husband, Eric, for 30 years. We have 2 grown boys. One of them, Jacob, lives a little over an hour away and has his own home and, works full time. Our younger son is in college now, but commutes from home. And before I had kids, I was a teacher of 1st and 4th grade. And then I stayed home while they were little until my younger one was in middle school. And then I worked part-time at my church preschool for a few years. And then I also worked at the elementary where my kids went to school as one of the childcare people, usually before school. So I didn't have to deal with the behavior issues and stuff. They come in sleepy and sweet, and I had fun with them. And then I also volunteered for a long time at the Ronald McDonald House, and I love singing in my church choir.
Oh, that's awesome. So, so when did you start writing? And we know that you have your porch chair prayers. They're kind of displayed behind you there, but tell us a little bit about how that became part of your writing process.
Yeah. Well, during COVID, the schools closed down, and so we came home and we could do some trainings and things online, but we weren't able to work with the kids because we didn't have them with us. So I had more time, and I had scheduled a birthday trip. I was having my 50th birthday, and that ended up getting canceled because the parks that we were going to go to were closed with COVID. So I had this money that I had put aside for that, and I decided, I found out about this online group that was for planning, and I just thought, oh, it would just be so much fun to be a part of this group. It was like, getting the little free thing, and then I really liked it. And I remember it was a lot of money, and I was like, I don't know if I can really do it. But then I talked to my husband, and I was teary-eyed and everything, and so he said, okay. So I just did it for the 90 days, and it was a lot of fun. I made some friends. I was able to have a lot of accountability in there. And I started working on some decluttering in my basement, along with all these other things that I was testing out. And doing that decluttering, I ran across a lot of my old teaching things and poems I'd written for like VBS or for different things. And also my letters I'd written and different things like that. And it really got me thinking about how I had put a few devotions in some books about over 20 years ago in devotional books. And I just realized, I knew back then that God wanted me to write a book, but I knew that the time wasn't right. And I didn't have any idea what it was supposed to be about. And I told him back then, I said, I'll write that book, but you have to tell me when the time's right and what it's supposed to be about. And right about then, because of all the free time and everything, it just, all all kinds of ideas started coming to me, and I had these different samples that I could actually like include in part of it. And I had children that were older, and I had my son at home because he was doing homeschooling and everything. I was like, hey, do you think you could set me up for a blog? And he's like, yeah. He had it set up like right away. And it was the good part about it was one that was like just like one that you had to like really add everything to. It was like an engineering kind of thing or something. So I couldn't do anything with it, but he would put the posts up and stuff. So I only gave it to like my mom and my best friend or something. But after a few weeks, and I was like, well, could you put it somewhere where I could actually do something with it? And so then we set up the WordPress site. And from that point on, I didn't join Hope Writers then, just, started to be committed to some other things, got a free month with that starting out. So it was easy to, dip my toes in. I had more time because we were home. And at that point, then I started writing a blog each week and putting it out. And by the end of that year, with the help of my guys, I had self-published 3 books and it's all the blogs,
Wow.
From the website and doing it, through Amazon, KDP, and my son does all that. But the thing is, if I had wanted to write 20 years ago and put books out, I didn't have the live-in staff to do the work. So my editors and everything, I didn't have any
really
of it. So obviously, yeah. And I sat down to write one, and it was like, I was like, how am I going to put these? What kind of order and whatever? And I was going to do like 48 or whatever. And it was like, I got this download that you have a 3-book deal. And so, I was like, some were for the regular book, and then it was going to be some spring and summer and some fall and winter, because I had written, like seasonal posts and that kind of thing too, or for the holidays and whatever. And so I was like, okay, so that's how we got those out. And I have since put out 4 and we'll continue to put those out along with any other writing I do. And that's because I have a lot of friends and family that are not online, and they don't even see it, when it's out. So I send it directly to them, or they like to have the book print, and then there are lines for them to answer journal questions in as well. And I've also, now I've got 10 books I can say that I have devotions in, because those books way back then, I had a couple. And then I've been putting out a few of my devotions. Since I own all of them, I can put them in other books as long as they're okay with it. And so they've been included in some different devotional books, some different series. So there's one in some marriage book, and one in gratitude book, and different things like that. So that's been fun too, because I'm spreading it out a little bit. And all of them are Christian, except the gratitude book. I don't know that all of them are, but there are some. So it's that way to expand beyond, to see, how you might reach some additional people as well. So that's all been good.
Well, what you've been able to accomplish is remarkable, but I want to back up a little bit, because you were talking about cleaning your basement, and this idea of decluttering your life and like bringing some order to some chaos, which is kind of what we're talking about here today. I think we can all probably identify with that need, right? Like we don't suffer from lack of much. We usually suffer from too much.
Right.
It can be too much of physical things, too much food, too much rest, too much not inactivity, that kind of thing. So you were kind of feeling that in your life, which is what prompted you to start doing this planning thing. So could you talk a little bit about?
Well, I think all of us back in COVID time could really felt like everything changed for us, right? And it was just, we didn't know where we were going or what we were doing, because we couldn't go anywhere or do much. But so that made us all go back into our homes, and that was where the decluttering came in. And it was during all that time that it was so nice to have that ability to okay, what do I want to do, and how do I want to do it? And I learned to break it up, and she had some different ways to break it up. I've kind of changed it a little bit so that you could kind of put different parts in different areas and really think about it. And when we get a little further, the 4 parts that I have that I've come up with are faith, because that comes up first, and then friends and family, fitness, which is not just your health and wellness, but it's all the areas of your life and keeping those all running smooth. And then also whatever you're focusing on at the time. And I think we have this idea that we have to do everything in a certain order. Like if I needed to get all the decluttering done before I would have any time to do writing, or I need to do, I've got to take care of the kids or do this or whatever in order to be able to work on these other things. But what we have to realize is that we need to have a balance. It might not be an exact balance. Not everything will take a certain length of time or as much energy, but we need to put different parts into our lives because we are a whole being, and we have to give all of that to God. And I think that was the thing that was lacking in that group, was that they might like pull a card to figure out what the focus was going to be, or when they talked about things, it didn't come back to God, and we have to have God first. And so I think that's a really important thing. But I know that it's been very, very helpful now as I've moved on, and we've had my father-in-law passed away a year and a half ago or whatever. And we ended up getting his estate, which was a house that hadn't been lived in for a really long time. And there was all kinds of stuff I had to go through. He wouldn't let us do anything while he was alive. I had to go through all that. We had to have people come in and take care of animal damage and haul things to the dump. He hadn't done his taxes for 11 years. So we had both sets of taxes to do, and, and so many people that we had to do. And so that was on top of normal life. We couldn't just dump everything else in life to go do that. But I kept up with the minimum on my posts. I kept up with the minimum on the house, but I didn't do all the extra stuff at that time. And I think all of us have, we might be caring for a parent or a child or an illness of our own. It might be that we're going through a job change, or, there's always something that's not going the way you want it to go. And we have to give time and energy to that, but we also have to maintain some level of the rest of our lives as well. And we have to take care of ourselves emotionally and spiritually, and take care of the family members that we've been given. So we have to kind of find a way to do that. And I found that by starting out by kind of breaking it up like this in these groups, it really helps me to then take it and see how I might even be able to combine it and put it together to do something, to make it, fit in multiple categories at once. So that's
because I think that's real life, right? Like we all have our everyday responsibilities that we have to take care of. Then there's the things that we would like to do. And then there's the extra things that we weren't planning on having to deal with, like with your father-in-law's estate.
Right.
Like those things happen in life. And when they do, it doesn't mean everything else has to come to a screeching halt, that we can. I'm excited to learn more about what your quadrant system looks like.
Yeah.
Because I think that, like, I'm sure everyone can attest to having periods in your life where you're like, I can't get it all done. I can't manage. So what do you think here has been like the result of what you've learned? Have you been able to, obviously you write, and you must write with some speed to be able to get that many books done in a short amount of time. I know you have an on-site staff. That's really helpful. But for those of us who don't, like, what are some of the things that you've noticed in your own life that have improved by using this system?
Well, for one thing, just admitting that I was going to do that and saying it out loud has allowed, like, my family were like, at the beginning, but I think everyone comes to understand if this is what mom does, or this is what, and then when they start to see how these changes that you're making are helping you and they start to benefit them as well, everybody starts to get on board with it. So I think it kind of changes other areas as well, because I'm able to, like, look further out, but also look into the moments and figure out ways that I can, kind of combine things together, or, if I need to get in a walk, I can take a friend with me. And so I'm doing, multiple things at once, but it's in a healthy, beneficial kind of way.
Mhm.
And I just, what the reason that I ended up having to leave that group for myself was because it was just a little bit, it just didn't balance enough with, how I couldn't talk about my faith as much as I wanted to. I couldn't focus it that way. It was more like your intuition, which I do think we have a little bit of that in us, but I think it's more that we're listening to God and kind of figuring things out. So it just seems like now I'm able to feel more confident in whatever it is I do choose to do. We're planning ahead is really choosing ahead what to do.
Yeah, that's
And
such a good distinction because we're not necessarily victims of our circumstances, right? Which is a
right,
lot of what we see in the world today, where it's like, well, all of these things have happened to me, so therefore we play a victim status versus like we make choices all the time with
right,
how we spend our time, and we do have a lot of control over the things that we prioritize in our
right.
lives.
And it's also those big, scary things. It's figuring out ways to break them down into smaller chunks and finding something else to kind of balance it. So if you're like really, like if I'm exhausted from cleaning at that house and all that, and I want to come home, I can find something to do to relax or listen to music or whatever it might be that kind of can help fix that. You know what I mean? Just kind of give you a little bit of
Yeah.
an opportunity to kind of balance back a little bit,
Yeah,
so
I think too, like, I feel a lot like just the sense of overwhelm, right? You
mhm,
just kind of feel like things feel too big or too outside of your control, and that this is kind of a way of kind of breaking those big things down into
mhm,
more manageable chunks of
mhm,
time.
right.
So, um, yeah, if anybody has any comments in the chat, like what are you guys feeling like? Do you have a big project that is looming over you, or where do you feel the most sense of overwhelm or dread or helplessness in an area of your life? It'd be interesting to kind of know if there are things that you all are struggling with, or writing projects, or what it is that kind of feels like it's like too big. Share it with that. Share with us in the chat if you can. So yeah, tell us a little bit about can you tell us a little bit more about the 4 focus areas?
Sure. So I mean, these are what you get in the little packet, and there was the one that's just a separate like this. So I've got it this way and this way, in case whichever way you think better. But it's just dividing your paper into 4 areas. So there's faith, friends and family, fitness, and focus. And when we think about our faith, we're thinking about things like our quiet time with God, Bible study time, renewing our mind, journaling, church activities, volunteer activities. As you get prayer requests, you could put those on here, and anything else you like to do to stay close to the Lord throughout the week. So whether it's listening to sermons or singing to worship music. And then when you go into thinking about family and friends, it's like things that you do with or for others. So this includes like your family activities, the transportation we're doing back and forth to take everybody everywhere, going on vacations or outings with friends. And I also include in that area home and hospitality. So that's when you're inviting people into your home, or when you might be providing a meal or taking items to someone else. And it could be something as simple as having family dinners or reading a book before bedtime. And then fitness includes a wide range of things. So it's your health and wellness goals. It's also like self-care, food and nutrition, exercise, sleep, doctor's appointments, and things that bring you joy or encourage your heart. Focus areas I think of as more like your missions and purpose in life. it's maybe your work or career. And for us, I think as writers, if we're writing Christian, it could, in that genre, then it could also fit under our faith, and a lot of it does. But there's also the writing and planning and any habits and routines that you've established that help you to, get the jobs done and stay focused, and anything else that you're working on in the short term. So if you've got a big project, it might be taking a long time, but you might take certain parts that you want to put down for that week that you want to work on. And so once you have everything written out, you can begin to determine which items are more important. And then you can think what you might want to eliminate, delegate, combine into time blocks or more meaningful activities. And you can figure out how you might put those together. So like I mentioned before, I might get my exercise in by going out with a friend. I might make pizzas with my family for a dinner so that we are spending family time together, and we might listen to worship music or have a movie night or whatever. So it's kind of figuring out things that you want to combine together that you can do. It might be running all your errands together, or creating some kind of if you don't have a morning habit or an evening routine, those kinds of things, and kind of balancing things together that kind of fit together, stacking some habits together so you get stuff done in a shorter amount of time or at the same time, so that you can free up some blocks that you can use for other things, whether it's writing or just having an artist day. We've heard about those, or just I had Mondays, I had time that was called Mom Day, and I would actually take and I would sign up for a room at the library, and I would go over there, and that was Mom Day. And you don't mess with Mom Day, because Mom Day is when I'm going to go over there. And I did do a lot of writing there, but it was just a place to go, be on my own and focus on that just for that time. But I think by allowing ourselves to focus on something for a time, we can move on to something else. Then there's also the whole grace and space thing. We'll do a lot more of this tomorrow, but you have to have grace and space, and you have to be willing to adjust, because if something comes up with one of your kids or your family, or even you are not in the mood to write on a particular day, you could sit there all day. There are times I could just sit and not come up with anything. So it's better for me to move into something different that I might be able to do. And it can also be thinking about your energy levels, and if there's times a day that work better for you than others, and also just what activities you do better to set time. So like just going with writing, it could be your one part of the day you're really more kind of analytical, and that's a better time for editing, where another time you're a little more creative, or you just want to sit and look at images to kind of figure out what you might want to put with a post. You might not be in the mood to write, but you can still do that. So you can move yourself forward, and you have to figure out what those parts are so that you can have those, kind of have a list of them or whatever, so that you're ready to jump in where you can, but still give yourself the time off when you need it. So it's kind of it's a learning thing, and it changes. And that's the whole thing. There might be something you have planned that you just can't do that week or whatever, because something else comes up, or because, you just don't feel good or whatever. So you have to kind of work that in. And there's some things we kind of push ourselves to do because it's like, oh, it's on the list. So you have to figure out how to work with yourself.
I think what you're talking a lot about is just kind of recognizing your own rhythms of life, and kind of maximizing those rhythms as best that you can. I liked too what you said about stacking. I've read some time management books before, and they do talk about stacking habits. So something that you do all the time, like you're always going to brush your teeth in the morning. So how can you redeem that time by maybe memorizing some scripture, or praying for that, the prayer request list that you always forget about, but to stack those things together is a great way to remind yourself to get more done during the day. So those are some really great and helpful tips. So I know that you have a devotional that I think really kind of connects with what we've been talking about. Would you like to share that?
Right. This is in Portrait of Prayers book 1. And this was a devotion that is my vision statement. And, when you go back to Melissa's teaching that we talked about how that having that true north, that guiding principles that we have, that helps to bring us closer to figuring out what we are supposed to do. And I believe that having that in mind helps us when we're going through the process of trying to figure out planning. So that's one thing that we want to start with. And this one is called Lord, I Believe. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us. Then Jesus said to him, if you can, everything is possible to the one who believes. Immediately the father of the boy cried out, I do believe. Help my unbelief. Mark 9:22b to 24. This command that I give you today is certainly not too difficult or beyond your reach. Deuteronomy 30:11. I was asked in one of my Bible studies to write what I believe is God's vision for my life. Here's my vision letter to God. Dear Lord, I believe your vision for me is to gain in health and lose in weight in my body, my heart, and my mind. You are dependable and reliable, a constant companion in my life. You listen to my praise, my pain, and my everyday grumblings. You long for a close relationship with me and are not offended when I speak with you, asking why you have allowed things to go a certain way. But because you love me, you long for me to be the best version of myself. You long for me to use my God-given skills to help others and myself. You want me to use all the things you have already given me, family, friends, support, Bible study, knowledge of healthy living, etc., to better my life and the lives of those around me, to affect your kingdom in a positive way. You want me to go back to basics, to the fundamentals, and form routines which will become disciplines that will keep me within your safe boundaries and will reduce my decisions, as I will know what I can do and not do, what is good and kind and will help me and others to prosper. You ask me to be patient and do the small things daily that will add up to big changes. You ask me to do something every day that will move me in a positive direction. You ask me to feel my emotions without always eating or acting them out. You tell me to comfort and guide others without taking on their full emotional baggage. You ask me to give it to you because you created it and can handle it. You are telling me not to weigh my success by a number on the scale or a list of completed projects, but by the close relationship I have with you and those you have surrounded me with. Lord, I have eternity to spend with you, and one day I will leave this earth and see you face to face. My spiritual health is more important and ultimately the only thing that lasts, but being healthy in all areas will give you the strength, energy, wisdom, and endurance to run my race to the end. I know this is not a straight line. There will be hills, mountains, pits, detours, and stops along the way. But I know your desire is for me to finish my race strong and to help others along the way. This is a super busy season in my life. So many things are out of my control and derail me for different lengths of time. But many are the paths that you have asked me to take to support those you have given me. I have many responsibilities, but I know your hand is over all, and what you ask is not too difficult. If I consult you and take the time and breaks necessary to get my part of the job done, then go back to those routines, however simple and small, I will move toward the health that you desire for me. Lord, I believe in you. Please help me believe that I can follow through. In Christ's name, amen. We may not see the clear path he has planned for us, but we can look to the Bible for guidance. We can sit quietly and reflect on where he has taken us so far and the desires that he has placed in our hearts. Some of the actions will be difficult. God asks us to lean on him. He will be there to encourage and support us throughout our journey. Dear Lord, this is the prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for your constant presence. Thank you for your loving interest in all aspects of my life and your desire to guide me in every day, in every way. In Christ's name, amen. And then journal. Take some time to write what you believe is God's vision for your life.
Wow. That's so good, Becky. Thank you for
Thanks.
sharing that with us.
Yeah. So then
One of the lines that stuck out to me is like this, even though the path is not clear,
Mhm.
and that we know it's not a straight line, that God is there and that he desires to walk with us through those
Mhm.
seasons. I was also thinking of the amazing grace, through many dangers, toils, and snares I have already come. So I think that's such a sweet way of putting it, Becky. Thank you
Thanks.
for that.
Thank you. Yeah. And so when we know what God has for us, we can begin to plan our days in ways that will be better use the desires and gifts that he's entrusted into us. And so a couple of Bible verses, Matthew 3:16 states, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be provided for you." And then 1 Peter 4:10, "Based on the gifts each one has received, use it to serve others as good managers of the varied grace of God." So when we're planning our time, we need to look at all the areas of our lives, and this allows us to see ourselves as whole people with a variety of roles and responsibilities. And we have gifts and goals that were given to God by God that we are to steward and to the best of our abilities. And when we live with the integrity and follow the mission statement we have created with God, then we know where we're headed. We know what we want to do and who we want to be, and we can set goals that'll help get us there. So you can start by thinking out a year or 5 years of where you want to get to. And then you can, like our kids will be older. We may have life changes, which will create more time for us to do writing, traveling, or speaking. We might want to start a podcast, make a healthy life change, switch jobs. And we may want to move or remodel our kitchen or office space. But taking that time to dream can allow us to think and plan the steps to get there. And some of us know a specific part of God's plan for us, for our lives right now. And we have the desire placed in our heart to do that, but we're just waiting for the time to be right. But it might not be the season for that whole dream to come to pass, but you can take some small steps now to start moving in that direction. And so let's say you wanted to take a photography class, but you haven't done any of the research. You don't have the time or money, so you just haven't done it. But what you can do instead is you can go get a book from the library, or you can watch a course online, or you can just go out with your camera and snap pictures of things you see and love, and do multiple pictures so that you can like check out the angles and see what you like better, and just start to begin moving in that direction. And that's the kind of thing then that you can do with any activity in your life. Just break it up into something small, allow yourself to dream big. I can picture myself sitting in a nice white furniture room with a big wall of bookshelves and, by the beach. I don't know that I'll ever get there, but I could make this house a little bit more calm and have my books with me, so it's in kind of figuring out how where you want to go and how you want to get there. And even with all the other things in life, we still have a purpose, and God still wants us to move in that direction. What is beneficial to us as well as to those around us. So
yeah, that's awesome. I think it's good to give ourselves some freedom and space to dream.
mhm.
I think sometimes we're afraid to do that. So that's a good word. So we're about to wrap things up, but couple things. Number one, Becky is going to teach us again tomorrow.
Mhm.
Tomorrow at
Noon.
same time, right?
Well, yeah. Well, it's actually an hour earlier than this because it'll be noon Eastern time.
Noon
And this is
Eastern.
1.
Okay.
So this was at 1. So
It's in
at
the
Eastern time.
gathering. So if you
Uh-huh.
can make plans to RSVP and join us, that would be great.
Mhm.
And Becky has also uploaded a bunch of resources.
Mhm.
Kathy's already printed it off. Do you
Yeah.
want to tell us a little bit about your PDF packet?
Yep, sure. So the planning documents are in there. So it starts with just the, 4x4 square thing. You can start jotting ideas down on there of what you might want to do for next week or, the next month, however you want to use that sheet. And then tomorrow we'll run through all the slides. And so what you have is the first few pages are just notes that are come with the slides, just things that I'll be saying or whatever. So you can add notes to it as you want. And then there's a monthly, a week, and a weekly calendar page, undated. So you can mark those in if you'd like to use those. And I know a lot of us have planners and things that we're using. So you can use something like that for a particular area if you just want to do it for what you're going to write or a meal planning thing or something like that. But you can print more of them out too. So you can use it for that, or you can use it for, we'll talk through a little bit more of that tomorrow. And there, I've also included 5 devotionals that are from my porch chair blog, and they're ones that kind of can help guide your heart in that direction as well. And then a couple of pages of Bible verses that have to do a little bit with work and the Bible. So you can look at those and see if you want to, go back into the Bible and look at them a little bit more detail. But it's just to kind of get your heart focused in the right direction so that we can, move more into the planning.
Thank you, Becky. So generous. Thank you for sharing all of that with us. We'll just open it up for a few minutes if anyone has any comments. There have been a few comments in the chat, Becky. If you want to take a look, but feel free to, excuse me, unmute yourself and ask any questions or comments to what Becky's shared with us already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Martha, you say about you learn it's not a sin to ask for help. The very first devotion I put in one of my books was when I broke my arm. And I broke both, I went down, broke both bones. It was like a fish, wah. And it was like for 6 days. It was right before my son's birthday. I'd been out, I bought all the stuff for his party, everything like that. My parents were getting ready to go on a Florida vacation. And, I couldn't cook. I couldn't do diddly. And my parents canceled their vacation to stay home. And that was right before COVID. So then they didn't get to go for a few years. They were going to Florida. They didn't get to go, but it was fine. And they wanted to be there. They wanted to be there for the surgery. They wanted to be a part of it. Church people brought food in. And I'm not one of those people that likes to ask for anything either. And I had asked my sister, like, when you come for Josh's birthday party, would you mind washing my hair? Because I didn't get to wash my hair, but and she's a nurse, so she can handle it. But anyway, so she, it was like people just were willing to do that. And I had to accept that because that was something that I don't like to do. But that was my very first devotional, being thankful for the surgeon that put me back together so I could even use my arm, and for God for healing it so that I could use it again, and my handwriting's slightly better with it now. What do you know? So it's kind of funny, but yeah, that's a very important thing to learn. Eliminate or delegate. I love that. Yeah, that's important. And sometimes it's just move it out. Like if it doesn't have to be this week and you've got a lot of stuff going on, you can just put it on a back burner somewhere. It might not be something that you're getting rid of forever. It might be, but it might be something that, can wait a couple weeks and, I can see how that would fit in here. So I'm not going to mess with it now. Or just if it's not urgent, don't mess with it right now. I've been learning that having easier tasks that I can knock off when I'm tired or not feeling focused, it's still progress because those things need to get done. Yeah. But I can tell you too, if I have to, I might leave some dishes in the sink because I know in the morning I'll have a lot more energy than I do tonight. And I know a lot of people want to have them done ahead, and that's awesome for you people. If I get to the place that I'm at the end of the night and I'm like, I'm just going to end up breaking these dishes, then I better not touch them. I'll just leave them, let them soak, and they're ready in the morning. Right. So
it's not like you just walk away.
Yeah, that's right. Well, sometimes we have to. I'm okay with that because like I spend time on the phone with my older son, it's a priority to me to keep my boys connected very close, not just to us, but to them, because, who knows how long we have. And so I make it a point that when he's not in church or out really late at night, that I'm like, we're going to be home. So if you have a chance, give us a call. And we talk almost every night, and we don't do a real detailed prayer, but we do go around and do a prayer in the evening. And I know a lot of people are like, their kids are off. They're supposed to be independent. But in our family, that's just something that, it's an option. If he can't for an evening or whatever, we're fine with that. And we do it even when his younger brother's out for the evening. We just it's just kind of nice to connect. So that comes way before anything else, because that's just something that we do. So
I like what Kathy says about discerning sideways energy versus
Mhm.
what actually moves the needle forward. Because I think that's such a good point, and I like the way you said that, because it's like
Yeah,
a lot of motion doesn't always equal progress, right? Like we can
right.
be really busy and not necessarily moving forward.
Hmm.
It
So
makes a difference too if you actually know what your goal or your vision is. It's easier to tell what's ways and what's not. So we do that in
yes,
ministry here at the church. We talk about, oh, we have this great opportunity to do something. Is it sideways energy, or is it on point with the church's mission and vision? So it's harder to do in my personal life because I think my personal mission and vision is a little more scattered.
Yeah.
Mm.
Abigail has a good one on here. Thank you for the advice. And she says, how do you suggest someone could overcome the resistance to dreaming caused by fear of disappointment that dream won't be fulfilled? I dreamt about writing a book for all that time. And I know you spent a lot of time on your book, right? So I don't think there's any fear. And I mean, I don't think we should withhold ourselves from dreaming, but talking to God the whole time. Lord, I'm thinking that this is a thought that I have. It's in my heart, and I don't want to go out ahead of you. I don't want to do something that isn't for what you have planned for me. But I can still look at properties in Florida. Okay, I don't have to buy a property in Florida yet. I can still attempt to do some of those things, or get into it just a little bit. But I think we have to give ourselves the opportunity to dream and know that it might not be now. It might be 5 years out, it might be 10 years out, it might not happen. I might not see and live next to the palm tree, but I have requested a palm tree view in my heavenly home, so I have asked for that. And so I may not actually get a place here. I'm totally okay with that. I'm not in a family that's probably going to be traveling all over like a lot of people get to do. That's just not going to happen. So we're more homebodies and that kind of thing. But I know that I'm going to see a lot of beauty up there. So I figure if I miss something here, it's not that big a deal, because we have eternity. And that's the thing that we have to remember. Now, if it has something to do with helping someone else and that kind of thing, then we want to keep trying to reach out and do the things that we can to help other people, right? And our family and all that. So we don't want to leave that out. But I do think we have to realize that we're not going to we're going to die with things undone, but that doesn't mean we don't work toward it, right? And we don't, because we don't know how what we start, even if we don't finish it, couldn't be used by someone else later, right? Somebody starts a small thing and it can still become something big. The Lord can do it however. And as you've seen before, some things start really small and then they pretty fast. So I wouldn't worry about that, but make sure that you're doing the things that you need to do, now as well,
to
right?
write things down,
And
like to
enjoy the
write
small.
down our
Yeah.
dreams, because I
Right,
think our
right.
dreams change over time
Right.
too. Like I think the things that we want now might not be the same things we want in 5 years, but it's good to mark them down,
Right.
pray through
And
them.
and see if there's some small part of it you could have now. Like I say, I might not be able to have that room with all white furniture and whatever on the beach, but I could still do a little bit here to make it a little bit like that. I might not be able to go on some big fancy trip, but I can do some small trips and just really look at what God has provided in that in that place, with whether it's the people or the environment or even the food, whatever it is. But so you have to kind of think about it and talk, if there's talk to your husband, whatever, about it. If it's something that it might be something that you could group up with someone else and kind of make happen at some level or at some time, or do some of the other things to clear the space so that it can happen. Like I had to get rid of some of that other clutter and things slowly, but over time, in order to make room in my mental capacity and all that kind of stuff. And you have to put things off. A lot of things that I would have wanted to do for that whole year, I had to kind of put off while we were dealing with his dad's estate. We could do some things, but we didn't get to have any kinds of trips or anything like that. We actually, when he was sick, he got sick on our, like we had only had 1.5 days of our vacation and we had to turn around and come home, and he passed away before we got home. And that we had just a few, like 6 days to get everything out. And I mean, he was a hoarder. to get everything out of his apartment, or we were going to have to pay money every day for the stuff to sit there. So, I mean, it wasn't ideal. Things aren't always going to go the way you want them to go. And you have to make changes. And we didn't go the next year because my husband took all his time, all his vacation time to do the estate, you know, so, and we were paying for 2 places, you know, we were paying double. So we didn't have funds. We had to wait until we got past that. So you have to, you know, find other things you can do in the time while you're waiting. It doesn't always work out. Yay, Carrie's gonna be with me. I'm gonna go. Oh, my neighbors have palm trees. I'm coming. Send me your address. I'll be there. I always joke and say I'm gonna go get gas in Florida whenever I get in a fight with my husband. I'm going to get gas. I'm going to get gas. They have gas stations in Florida too. I'm going there. You know, make
There's
it
a
fun.
theme. There's a
have to-
theme emerging in Becky's world that she
That's it.
desires palm trees and
I draw when
Yeah.
I sit and draw, I'm not very good, but I'll draw a little island with a palm tree, you know, palm tree, and I'm sitting under it with a book. But then I realized I don't really like outhouses, so I'm gonna have to have some indoor plumbing somewhere.
We have indoor plumbing, but our gas taxes are ridiculous.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Oh,
Anything else?
any other comments?
Is there anything else we should do to prepare for tomorrow's teaching?
No, if you want to write some things down on here, just kind of brainstorm, or if you want to sit and write down some things that you're thinking about for a year or 3, you know, 5 years, whatever. Or if you have questions that you want to ask at the end, because there'll be question time at the end. But I'm really just going to go through, kind of talk through it a little bit more. And then I think it'll be more, we're not going to get like a lot of planning done with these 2 sessions, but what we can do is you're welcome to anytime, either just directly contact me or go through the links that are put up, you know, from this. And it doesn't even have to be this week, but you know, when you have questions, ask. And I told Kara before that if she wanted to, we could, you know, set up some kind of accountability and planning sessions. With that particular group, we had accountability on Monday mornings, and we would get on. There were multiple times, but we would get on and we would just say what we were doing. And I know we have an accountability thing now, and some people are doing that. And then like planning to get together and just kind of like state what went well, what, you know, what I needed to work on, and kind of talk through how we might be able to make changes, because everybody has ideas. So that's something we could, you know,
Yeah.
potentially set up in the future. But
We have some of that kind of already established.
Right.
So if you'd like to join the accountability corner, that would be a good place to just hold yourself accountable to maybe some of these new goals you might be setting. And yeah, that would be great I know Jerry is working on that, so that would be great. And then also, just so you all know, if you haven't seen it already, we're going to do a coffee on Friday. And that will be just a time. It works out really nicely that it's on Becky's week, but that was just kind of a God thing. This is Melissa's idea, but just a time for us to get together and share what your goals are, what's working well in your life, where you might need some extra encouragement and support. So it's supposed to be a very chill, laid back, kind of bring your favorite beverage and chat with your writing friends about what's going on in your writing life. So I think that's a good
What time?
way to end this week.
What time will that be?
It's in the gathering, Martha. I don't know if you've seen all of the events there, but I think it's 10 a.m.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I
Pacific.
think it's 1
So
Eastern,
convert that to your own time zone. So it's in there. So, well, I want to thank Becky so much for coming today and sharing with us and sharing your heart and your plentiful downloads. We're grateful for your generosity in that, and looking forward to learning more from you tomorrow.
All right. See y'all then.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you
Bye.
tomorrow.
Bye.
Very good, Becky.
Thank you.
Got this.
It didn't sound like I was reading too much, did it?